I'd never thrown a housewarming before, mostly because I'd never had a home worth warming, but this one was different. Tiny, yes. Just two bedrooms, one bath, and a mismatched tile floor that whistled when you walked too hard. But it was mine. No cosigner. No borrowed name. No one else's fingerprints on the deed. After the divorce, after the bankruptcy scare, after the sleepless nights of eating cereal for dinner and wondering if I'd ever stand on my own again, this little house was proof. I had survived. I sent out the invites with shaky hands and a brave heart. Close friends, neighbors, a few coworkers. And Naomi was the first person I met when I moved to the city 8 years ago. She was the friend who showed up with soup when I had the flu, who laughed too loudly in coffee shops, who called me her calm in chaos. We'd both been through heartbreaks and job losses. She knew everything, including how bad it had gotten when my ex left me with nothing but debt and a broken lease. But I was rebuilding now. I bought myself fresh flowers, scrubbed the sink until it gleamed, arranged fruit skewers like I was on a cooking show. I even borrowed folding chairs from my neighbor because I wanted everyone to feel like this tiny place was bursting with joy. The doorbell rang. Naomi stood there in a blazer 2 sizes too small and sunglasses that cost more than my rent used to be. She swept in like she owned the air. "Oh, honey," she said, glancing around with a half smile. "This is cozy." She didn't bring a gift. She did bring a bottle of wine, half empty. I laughed it off. That's Naomi, I told myself. She always leads with edge before she softens. People trickled in. We ate, laughed, sat in a circle of collapsible chairs. I gave the grand tour that lasted under 90 seconds. Then came the moment. We were all sitting around the kitchen island. Someone asked, "Tessa, how did you manage to buy this place after everything?" Before I could answer, Naomi piped up. "Oh, she's a survivor," she said, swirling her wine. I mean, girl was practically bankrupt a year ago. It's amazing what you can do when you hit rock bottom, right? The room went quiet. Just for a second. But enough. I stared at her. She didn't even flinch. I smiled, a tight, practiced one, and changed the subject. But the crack had already splintered. Later that night, after the last dish was washed and the candles burned down to puddles, I replayed it over and over. Why would she say that? I hadn't told anyone about my financial past. Not my coworkers. Not the neighbors. Certainly not the new friends. I was slowly learning to trust, but Naomi had in front of them all, and not just a slip of the tongue, a precise little dart, dipped in truth, aimed with intent. It wasn't what she said. It was how she said it. Like it was funny. Like I was a story to tell. Like I hadn't spent nights crying over declined cards and bounced checks. Like my struggle was her anecdote. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Maybe I was being too sensitive. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe. But no, something had shifted. This wasn't warmth. This wasn't loyalty. This was something else. Something colder. A crack had opened. And even though I didn't know it yet, that crack was about to swallow everything I thought I knew about friendship. Rolled over and stared at my phone. Naomi had posted a boomerang of my fruit skewers with the caption, "Bankrupt brunch, but make it aesthetic." She added a laughing emoji. My stomach dropped. Not a joke. Not a mistake. A choice. And for the first time, I knew I was done romanticizing people who treated my trauma like entertainment. Before there was betrayal, there was brunch. Long before the mortgage. Before the passive-aggressive captions and the wine-soaked digs, there was just Naomi and me, two women clinging to the wreckage of early adulthood in a too-small apartment with mismatched mugs and a broken toaster. We met during a temp job neither of us wanted. She cracked a joke about the stale coffee, and I laughed harder than I should have. That was it. Friendship born in boredom and burnout. We started having lunch together, then drinks after work, then movie nights, then everything. She was wild where I was cautious, loud where I was soft. She danced in bars like no one was watching and made everyone watch. I admired her, maybe envied her, and maybe she knew. When my ex left me with debt and an eviction notice, Naomi let me sleep on her couch for 3 months. She called me roomie and handed me tissues while I cried over reruns and half-price wine. "You're too kind for this world," she told me once. "It's gonna chew you up." When her relationship crashed, I stayed up all night texting with her from across the city. When she lost her job, I edited her resume and sat with her through wine-fueled despair. We weren't just friends. We were each other's only dot, or so I thought. Looking back now, I see the hairline fractures, the time she accidentally wore white to my engagement party and laughed it off with, "Relax, it's off-white." Ways she'd call my thrifted outfits brave. How she once told a guy I was dating that I was so nurturing. It's almost maternal, like a mom friend. I chalked it up to Naomi being Naomi, edgy, unfiltered, a little too honest. But honest nonetheless, that's what I told myself. But after the housewarming, after the basically bankrupt comment and the Instagram post, I couldn't keep rewriting her lines to sound kinder. I sat with it for a few days. Let it sink in. I didn't want to react. I wanted to respond, so I invited her to coffee. Neutral ground. Public. No dramatics. She showed up 20 minutes late. Air kissed my cheek and ordered something with oat milk and extra foam. When I didn't smile back, she tilted her head. "Someone's in a mood." "I wanted to talk about the party," I said carefully. "What about it?" I breathed in. "The thing you said about me being bankrupt." She blinked, wide-eyed and blank. "It was a joke, Tess. It didn't feel like one." She scoffed, stirring her drink. "God, you're so sensitive sometimes." I stayed quiet. "I was trying to make you sound strong," she added. Like, look how far she's come. It was a compliment. It didn't sound like one. Naomi leaned back, crossing her arms. "So now I'm the villain?" Because I made one offhand comment. I searched her face for the friend who once defended me to a shouting landlord. The one who cried when I got my first raise. The one who used to say, "You're the most solid thing in my life." But that Naomi wasn't sitting across from me anymore. Or maybe she never had been. "I think you're jealous," I said quietly. She flinched barely, but I saw it. "Excuse me?" "I think you don't like that I landed on my feet. I think you liked me better when I needed you." Her mouth opened, then shut. Then she laughed, short, sharp, defensive. "Oh, please," she said. "You think this little house and your IKEA couch makes you better than me?" I didn't answer. She kept going. "You've changed, Tessa. You're cold now, distant. I was the only one who was real with you." "No," I said softly. "You were the only one who made me feel small and called it honesty." We sat in silence. The cafe buzzed around us. Dishes clinked. A child laughed. Steam hissed from the espresso machine. "You said I was family," I whispered. "You are," she said. "But family fights. And sometimes says things they don't mean." I stood up. "Family doesn't humiliate each other in front of strangers. Tess, don't do this." I looked at her for what felt like the last time. "I'm not doing anything," I said. "I'm just done pretending it didn't happen." She stared at me like I was rewriting her favorite story and killing off the main character. I left my untouched coffee on the table and walked out. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty for walking away. I felt free. At first, it was small things. Text messages that once came like clockwork. Stopped. Brunch invites dried up. A friend who used to call twice a week suddenly forgot my birthday. My coworker, Lila, the one who once asked for my banana bread recipe, wouldn't meet my eyes in the break room anymore. I told myself. I was imagining it. People get busy. Friendships shift. That's life, right? But then my landlord, a kind elderly woman who once brought me roses on my move-in day, called to check in about rent. She was careful, polite, but there was something clipped in her tone. Everything okay, Tessa? If you're ever behind, just let me know in advance. I blinked. I'm not behind. I just paid early, actually. Oh, right. I must have read the spreadsheet wrong. Sorry, dear. She hung up too fast. I stared at my phone. Something wasn't right. The final crack came on a Thursday afternoon. Had just finished an appointment and was walking to my car when I bumped into Janine, a friend from my old book club. She smiled, stiffly. Hey, I heard you got that little house. That's brave. I nodded slowly. Yeah, it's small, but it's mine. She tilted her head. Naomi said you were struggling, but it's so inspiring how you're keeping your head up. Something in my chest caved. What exactly did she say? Janine faltered. Oh, just that it's been tough for you. That the divorce really wiped you out. That you're rebuilding. I smiled. Tight, numb. Thanks. That night, I sat at my desk, staring at Naomi's Instagram. She posted another story, a throwback selfie of us from 3 years ago. The caption read, hard to watch your faves pretend they're thriving when you know the real tea. #GirlB and then the group chat. I found it by accident. A mutual friend had shared a screen recording of Naomi ranting about some reality TV drama. But when I paused the video, I saw the chat name, St. Tessa's GoFundMe. My stomach turned. I tapped into the thread and scrolled. She's like, look at me, I'm independent now, girl. Your toaster is from the Salvation Army. Plot twist. She bought that house with Monopoly. Money. She cried over a coupon. I can't. I swear she acts like she's the first person to survive a divorce. Get a therapist, not a housewarming. They laughed. Reacted with hearts. Clapping emojis. Crying faces. Naomi's name was everywhere. She always played the poor little me card. Guess I should have charged for all that couch time. And finally, watch her apply to be my intern. Manifesting it. Something inside me cracked. Not loud, not violent. Just a clean, silent snap. I closed my laptop, and I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat still. My heart beat like static in my throat. It wasn't just Naomi. It was everyone. Everyone she had whispered to. Everyone who laughed. Everyone who looked at me with that polite pity, like I was a bruise in their otherwise beautiful day. They didn't just know. They enjoyed knowing. They made a group chat for it. I went into the kitchen and opened the cupboard, pulled out the cracked mug Naomi gave me years ago. The one that said, World's Softest Savage. I dropped it in the trash. I deleted the group chat screenshots. I didn't need proof. I already had the scars. The next day, I wore my brightest lipstick to work. I answered emails with one-word confidence. I walked into the building like I owned it, because I did. At least the piece of it I fought to earn. They had made me into a story. A punchline. But I was done being the joke. And they hadn't even seen the plot twist coming. I didn't text Naomi again. Didn't confront her. Didn't post cryptic stories. Didn't retaliate because something in me had shifted. I wasn't interested in clearing my name anymore. I was interested in building something that made her version of me irrelevant, not broke. Just building. It started with flowers. I had always loved them. The quiet language of color and bloom. When my world was falling apart during the divorce, I found peace in arranging thrifted petals in dollar store vases. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. So I registered a domain. .tessablooms.com. Simple. Soft, just like me. At night, I took online design courses, balance, negative space, seasonal texture. I learned how to speak in peonies and eucalyptus, How to evoke feelings through fragrance and form. During the day, I worked my admin job. At night, I answered inquiries, watched tutorials, practiced with supermarket flowers on my tiny kitchen counter. I made mistakes. I undercharged. I cried over wilting stems, but I kept going. While Naomi posted about rooftop bars and new designer bags with tags still visible, I was Googling how to keep hydrangeas from collapsing in heat. She was loud. I was focused. People think growth is glamorous. They picture sleek offices and viral launches. Mine look like 3 a.m. coffee. Missed calls from friends and hands stained green from floral wire. But with every bouquet, something came back to life in me. A bride tagged me on Instagram, her bouquet in soft pastels with a caption. The only vendor who listened, cared, and delivered beauty. Another client sent a tip and a thank you card. A stranger DM'd asking if I was available for their engagement party. It wasn't viral. It wasn't explosive. It was steady. A trickle of affirmation. The life Naomi mocked. It was becoming a business. Meanwhile, I watched from afar as her life, so perfectly filtered, frayed at the edges, her captions became cryptic. Not everyone deserves your light. Protect your peace. Fake friends everywhere. She deleted half her photos. She posted screenshots of Venmo requests with snarky emojis. A mutual friend told me she'd been borrowing money and missing brunch bills. And still, she bragged online. Debt dressed in designer. She was performing stability. I was quietly earning it. Every time I got discouraged, I reminded myself, quiet progress is still progress. I didn't need everyone to see it. I just needed it to be real. And it was becoming real. I signed my first full wedding, a 50-person backyard affair, then a corporate dinner, then a baby shower for a local influencer. I built a Google Drive of contracts. I made templates. I started tracking profits. I upgraded my phone camera to take better photos of arrangements. One night, as I watered the plants on my windowsill, I realized I hadn't thought about Naomi in 3 full days, and it hit me. This was the revenge, not rage. Not exposure, but evolution. They thought I was done. That my story ended with a group chat and a charity giggle, but I had written a new chapter, and I was the only one who needed to read it. No viral post. No dramatic exit, just me. Quietly becoming someone they couldn't define anymore. Not broke. Just building. It was subtle at first, just like Naomi's betrayals had been a miscaption. A story without her usual flair. A job title quietly removed. From her bio. Then came the whispers. She got laid off. Her lease ended. Her boyfriend moved. Out. She's crashing with her cousin. I didn't rejoice. I just noticed. Watched as Naomi began her descent the same way she had climbed, publicly, performatively, and with thin, trembling grace. She posted long, vague captions about loyalty and trimming your circle. She posted inspirational quotes about starting from scratch and trusting the universe. But behind her digital affirmations was panic. The kind you can't filter. She started popping up in old group chats again, laughing at jokes no one told, commenting on posts from people she hadn't spoken to in months. It was like watching someone claw at a wall of glass, desperate to be let back in. Then one day, she texted me. Naomi, hey stranger, just saw your post. How's the little house doing? Miss you. No apology. No mention of the humiliation. No acknowledgement of what she'd done, just fake warmth and emojis. I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the screen. I didn't block her. I didn't reply. I just archived the thread. She had made my absence easier than I ever could have planned. Meanwhile, something else was happening. Something big. 3 months earlier, I'd handled the florals for a charity gala free of charge. Just a favor for a friend who believed in me. The event had been elegant, quiet, intimate. My kind of celebration. I didn't think much of it until I woke up to 900 new followers and a DM from a wedding stylist with 300K Instagram fans. Hi, are you the owner of Bloomwell Studio? Your arrangements at the gala were breathtaking. We need to talk, Bloomwell, the brand I had created in silence. The business I built from leftover stems and grocery store roses that week. I booked 6 weddings. The week after that, I was interviewed for a local bridal magazine. By month's end, I had a wait list. I hired an assistant. I opened a small studio, bare bones, functional, but real. I put my name on the lease with trembling hands. Tessa. From the gossip thread. From the coupon tiers. From the basically bankrupt dinner. Tessa now had clients who asked for her by name. But Naomi didn't know. She saw the Bloomwell posts. She liked them, reposted them once, even. I don't think she ever realized the woman behind the brand, the one styling the floral arches. Holding the scissors, sending the invoices was me, and I didn't tell her, because power isn't always about being seen. Sometimes. It's about choosing not to reveal yourself to someone who thought you had. Nothing left to show. She had told the world I was sinking, but I had built a lifeboat. And by the time she started reaching for it, I had already reached the shore. Her fall. My rise. No announcement. No vengeance. Just gravity doing what it does best. And me? I just kept climbing. It was a slow Tuesday afternoon. I was catching up on emails between consultations, sipping lukewarm tea, when I opened a new job application submission. Subject, part-time floral assistant application. My business had grown enough that I'd listed an open role on a small local jobs board, entry level, basic hours, minimum wage. Someone to sweep the floors, prep vases, help with cleanup. I clicked the attachment. Name, Naomi Wells, experience, event coordination, client relations. Skills, fast learner, creative eye, team player. I blinked. Naomi. Her resume was carefully curated, clean fonts, buzzwords, confidence oozing from bullet points. She even listed a fake business she claimed to have helped launch. There was no mention of the gossip, the betrayals, the bankruptcy jokes. Just a woman in need of a job, and she didn't know who she was applying to. I read it twice, then once more for the irony. The woman who once turned me into a whispered joke now needed a job cleaning up after my success. I leaned back in my chair and smiled. Slow and steady. My business email didn't carry my name. The brand was Bloomwell Studio, and I often signed off as events director or just management. I replied with a neutral message. Thank you for your interest in the assistant role at Bloomwell. We'd like to invite you for an interview this Thursday at 11 a.m. Studio location attached. Kindly. Bloomwell team. I stared at the send button for a second, then clicked it. She replied within an hour, grateful, excited, said she loved our aesthetic. When she walked into the studio on Thursday, she didn't even flinch. She looked around, all bright smiles and eager eyes. I wore a mask of calm professionalism. Thanks for coming in, Naomi. She smiled wide. Of course. I've followed your work for months. It's beautiful. I nodded. We're hiring for prep and tear down, mainly setup, cleaning, and supply runs. It's part-time. Minimum wage. She hesitated for just a moment. I saw the flicker of pride flinching, but she was too desperate to say no. That's totally fine, she said quickly. Honestly, I just miss being around beautiful events. I'm not picky. I asked her the standard questions. She answered with charm. She still had the charisma that once made me feel small, only now. It looked a little desperate. I offered her the job at the end of the interview. She took it on the spot. No questions. No counteroffer. No idea. She didn't recognize the handwriting on the wall or the scent of the flowers I used to bring to her birthday dinners. She didn't. Now the studio logo was based on a sketch I once doodled at her kitchen table. She didn't know the storage room. She'd be organizing had a mug with my name on it, tucked just out of view, and I didn't tell her, because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't expose the past, it's rewrite the present, so beautifully that the past can't touch it. She had once told people I was bankrupt. Now she worked for me, prepping peonies at $15 an hour. Poetic. Yes, but not petty. I wasn't here for revenge. I was here to grow. And as she rolled up her sleeves and asked where we kept the cleaning rags, I realized she had finally stepped into my story, but she didn't get to hold the pen. I did. Naomi showed up 5 minutes late to her first shift. She apologized quickly, breathless, holding a half-empty coffee cup and a tote bag that probably cost more than my monthly flour. Budget 2 years ago. I had to take the bus, she said with a forced smile. Not used to that yet. I nodded politely from behind the studio counter and directed her toward the prep station. She didn't recognize me. Not even a flicker of realization. I wore my hair back in a tight bun, dressed in neutral tones, spoke in clipped, calm phrases. To her, I was just a quiet operations lead, maybe a manager. Certainly not the owner. Certainly not Tessa. She walked right past the framed photo on the back shelf of me holding my first bridal bouquet. Never noticed the initials TS embossed on the corner of our packaging. Her job was simple. Clean vases, restock floral wire, sweep petals from the floor, but Naomi always used to centerpieces, not side stages. Struggled. She complained often, loudly. These scissors are dull. My back hurts from standing. Do we really need to cut every stem diagonally? She asked for breaks, extended them, checked her phone constantly, spoke to other staff like she was above them. But here's the thing about power, it doesn't raise its voice. The rest of my team adored me. They knew me as Tessa from the top, the quiet force behind the studio. They never questioned why I stayed behind the scenes now. They understood the poetry of my silence. Naomi didn't. She told another assistant one day, the owner here must be cold. You can feel it in the policies. I was standing 6 feet away, labeling jars. She didn't even glance at me. She joked that whoever ran the place was probably some divorced woman trying to play girl boss. That one made me smile. The irony was thick and floral scented. She gossiped like she always had, except now. No one really cared. She was just a name on the schedule, a body in the room. She didn't lead the conversation anymore. She didn't shine. She didn't hold court, and yet I never stopped her. I never corrected her, never called her out, because her own voice was slowly becoming her undoing. Looked smaller, not physically, but energetically. The kind of person who had once walked into a room and taken up all the space now hovered on the edges, trying to reclaim relevance. One afternoon, while setting up a rehearsal dinner, I watched her fumble a floral arch and knock over a centerpiece. She laughed it off, called it clumsy charm. I walked past, fixed it without comment, and kept moving. No lectures. No scolding, just quiet control. I heard her whisper to a junior designer later, God, I hate this place. It's like the walls are watching you. They were, I was, and still I said nothing, because my silence wasn't. Weakness. It was precision. Let her underestimate me. Let her complain about the mysterious owner who didn't understand her potential. Let her struggle with minimum wage while I signed checks for luxury weddings and penthouse ballrooms. Let her call me heartless, when it was her own gossip that had emptied the room of all eyes. Minimum wage. Maximum power. This wasn't revenge made of fire and fury. It was the quiet kind, the kind that bloomed. The comment came over lunch, casual and cruel, Naomi's specialty. She's probably some bored trust fund brat who calls this a passion project. Naomi's voice floated over the break room, followed by a fake laugh. The younger assistant she was talking to blinked, confused. Really? I thought she built this from nothing. The founder, I mean. Everyone says she's super humble. Naomi shrugged, flipping her hair back. Please, no one makes it this big without money. Or a man. I sat in my small corner office, the door slightly ajar, watching the studio security footage from my laptop. Not because I didn't trust my team, but because I needed to understand what this moment was becoming. And Naomi? She was still writing a story about me, one where I didn't earn any of it, one where she still gotta be the narrator. I leaned back. Expression unreadable. It didn't sting like it used to. It just confirmed. She hadn't changed. And yet, her words didn't hold power anymore. She no longer had an audience, just coworkers who nodded politely and excused themselves as soon as they could. Still, the irony wasn't lost on me. She had told people I was bankrupt, that I'd never amount to anything, that I was weak. Now she folded tissue paper for a company I built from the ashes she scattered, and yet she assumed I didn't exist in the room, that I was distant, invisible, maybe imaginary. She wasn't entirely wrong. I had become something else, someone she couldn't recognize. But the story needed to end. Not with drama. Not with yelling, but with truth. Began preparing, not a confrontation, not a takedown, a reveal. The final puzzle piece, placed with care. I started small. Our next team meeting. I joined the circle for the first time in weeks. Naomi barely glanced at me. When I spoke, outlining our next client project, she looked confused. She probably thought I was filling in for someone higher up. I mentioned our studio origin story in passing. I started with just one bride and borrowed vases. Naomi didn't blink. No dots. Connected. I kept watching, letting it build. Later that week, I invited the team to a local women's entrepreneurship panel where I'd be speaking on behalf of Bloomwell. All staff were encouraged to attend. Optional, but recommended. Naomi didn't RSVP until someone told her the keynote speaker was the founder of this place. I could imagine her face then. That flash of curiosity, that bubbling need to impress, maybe network, maybe social climb. She signed up the next day. I didn't confirm or deny anything. I just let the current carry her closer to the truth, because sometimes the best revenge isn't correction. It's clarity, letting someone walk themselves right into the moment they claimed would never come, letting them see the future they said you didn't have, wrapped in soft lighting, applause, and your own voice at the mic. The reveal wasn't for her. It was for me. To close the book with both hands. To stop living like I had anything left to prove. She said I had no future. So I built one so big. She got hired inside it, without ever realizing who owned the walls. The evening shimmered with soft golds and pale pinks, Bloomwell's signature palette. The studio had never looked more alive. A string quartet played gently in the background. Wine glasses clinked. Laughter hummed across the room. We were celebrating the studio's 3rd anniversary, a milestone I had quietly dreamed of reaching when I was scraping grocery store petals into recycled jars. The team was buzzing with excitement. Clients, stylists, partners, all mingling. Everyone knew this night was special. Except Naomi. She walked in 10 minutes late, wearing a dress that screamed confidence and desperation. She scanned the room like someone looking for a spotlight. Her eyes passed over me twice before she clocked my presence behind the mic. Her smile froze. I didn't smile back. Instead, I tapped the microphone, letting the soft chime hush the crowd. Thank you all for being here, I began. My voice was steady, sure. 3 years ago, I started Bloomwell out of a 1-bedroom apartment, a used toolbox, and $27. There were polite chuckles, but I had something better than capital, I continued, locking eyes with no one and yet everyone. I had a reputation. Not a good one, but a loud one. People smiled knowingly. I'd been told I was finished, that I was broke, unlovable, and maybe I was. But what looked like rock bottom turned out to be foundation, a pause, a breath, and today, I just want to thank every person who ever counted me out, because you helped me count myself in. Scattered applause turned into a soft roar. Step down. Eyes followed me, but hers the most. Naomi stood frozen near the gift table. Her expression a mix of confusion, horror, and something else. Recognition. She knew now. I walked straight to her, calm as glass. Naomi, I said, offering a polite nod. Her mouth opened, then shut. She tried to compose herself, smoothing the front of her dress like that could erase everything she'd just heard. I didn't. I mean, I had no idea. I know, I said evenly. I didn't mean what I said back then. We were all under pressure, and I held up a hand. From my clutch, I pulled a simple cream envelope. She blinked. What's this? Severance, I said. 1 month's pay. No reference needed. She looked at it like it might burn her. Tessa, please. Can we talk? We are, I said. Right now. Like adults. She stepped closer. I didn't mean to hurt you, but you did, I said gently, over and over, and then again behind my back. You didn't just mock my finances. You tried to erase me. Her face twisted, guilt, pride, embarrassment warring all at once. I was jealous, she blurted. You were starting over and people still liked you. I thought if I got ahead of the story, you could write the ending, I finished. She nodded slowly. But I didn't know you'd become this. Of course you didn't, I replied. You were too busy building your image to imagine I was building a life. The silence between us thickened. Please, she whispered, don't fire me. I looked at her, not cruelly, not smugly. Just clearly, this was never about revenge, Naomi. I don't hate you. I just finally believe I deserve peace. She took the envelope with shaking hands. No dramatic exit. No screaming. Just a quiet severance. Her pride had cost her the one thing she never imagined losing. Relevance. And I got to walk away whole. With flowers on every table. And my name finally spoken with respect. There's a quiet that settles in when you're finally at peace. It doesn't scream or announce itself. It just fills the room like sunlight, steady, soft, undeniable. Tessa sat on a wooden bench in the back of her studio garden, coffee in hand, watching the light stretch across rows of tulips and peonies till closed with morning. The scent of lavender floated in the air, blending with the distant sound of her team setting up for the day. It was the same place she once dreamed of having when she didn't even have a kitchen table. Now it was real. Bloomwell wasn't just a company. It was her quiet rebellion, her open letter to everyone who thought she'd fade away, and she didn't feel angry. Not anymore. Naomi hadn't ruined her life. If anything, Naomi had lit the match that forced her to rebuild from nothing, and in doing so, built something that was finally hers. You weren't my downfall, she whispered into the garden breeze. You were just the last lie I needed to stop believing. She opened her phone, staring at a group chat long muted, one that used to be filled with inside jokes, birthday plans, screenshots of other people's drama. Now it was empty noise. Her thumb hovered over it just for a second, and then delete, a soft chime, and it was gone, not out of pettiness, but power. She pulled up her company's website next. For years, the About Me section had listed a vague origin story, founded by a woman with a passion for florals and storytelling. No name, no face. It had been protection, a veil between her and a world that once laughed when she fell. But today, she scrolled to the bottom and hit edit. She typed Tessa Monroe, founder, creative director, rebuilt from the ground up. A believer in second chances, even when no one offers them. She hit save. No shaking hands. No hesitation. She stared at the screen for a moment longer, then locked the phone and let it rest on the bench beside her. Birds chirped above, flitting between the studio's twinkling garden lights. Inside, she could hear laughter. Her team was probably teasing each other about coffee orders, playlists, ribbon styles. They were building something together, something honest, something earned. Naomi had walked into her life wearing friendship like perfume, pleasant from a distance, toxic up close, but Tessa no longer carried that scent. She carried soil under her nails, a client list booked through next spring, and a name that meant something, not because it was spoken often, but because it had been fought for. She didn't plan to reach out, not to Naomi, not to anyone who had watched her burn and whispered, "Told you so," because her story didn't need them anymore. Her story belonged to her. She stood, brushing off her jeans. The sun had risen a little higher, setting the dew on every leaf aglow. She walked through the rows, fingers grazing the petals gently, as if in thanks. "You were a lesson," she whispered again, not needing to say the name. "Not a loss." Inside, her assistant called out, "Tessa, the bride just arrived." She smiled. "I'm coming." And with that, she walked inside, not just into the building she'd built, but into the life they said she'd never have. Quiet, uncheckable, blooming.